Krishna, dear devotees, good morning. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janma Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Janma Balaba Girivaradari Nandana Braja Janarana Yashodanandana Braja Janarana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vidanavala Girivaradha Gopi Vidanavala Girivaradha Yashodanandana Prabhajanaranda Yashodanandana Prabhajanaranda Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Janapalava Girivarada Gopi Janavalava Girivarada Yashodana Dana Bracha Janarani Yashodana Dana Bracha Janarani Akita Vanata Yamunatera Anacha Javiya. Vishnu Padma Hamsa Parivrajacharya Srimad His Divine Grace Siva Padaki Jaya Vishnu Hamsa Parivrajacharya Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jaya Nanda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jaya Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jaya from Sikha host Sri Guru Vrinda Ki Jaya Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dhaman Ki Jai Suradhani Navadvipadhan Ki Jai Jagannath Purdhan Ki Jai Namayaman Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna, all glories to Shri Guru Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna, dear devotees, good morning. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, the last chapter, chapter 26. Chapter is called The Hellish Planets. And we're reading the texts today from 11 to 15. We'll read the first Sanskrit, and word to word, and then we'll just read translations. And I don't know the reason for this one, so I'll just do my best. Yat viha yat hava muna vihimsita jantava paratra yamayatanam upagatam ta eva ruravo bhutva tathatam eva vihimsanti tasmat rauravam ityahurururiti sarpadati krura satvasya bhadishaha. Word to word. Yeah, those who. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll do that.
Ye,
Those who.
those who,
Two.
two,
But.
but,
Iha.
iha,
In this life.
in this life,
Yatha.
yatha,
As much as.
as much as,
Eva.
evam,
Certainly.
certainly,
Amuna.
amuna,
By him.
by him,
Vihimsitaha.
vehim shitaha,
Who were hurt.
who were hurt,
Jantavaha.
jantavaha,
The living entities.
living entities,
Paratra.
paratra,
In the next life.
in the next life,
Yamayatanam.
yamayatanam,
Oh, sorry. Yamayatanam upagatam.
yamayatanam upagatam,
Being subjected to miserable conditions by Yamaraj.
being subjected to miserable conditions by Yamaraj,
Te,
they,
those living entities.
those living entities,
Eva,
eva,
indeed.
indeed,
Rurabaha,
ruravaha,
rurus,
rurus,
a kind of envious animal.
kind of envious animal,
Bhutva,
tva,
becoming.
becoming,
Tata,
tatha,
that much.
that much,
Tam,
tam,
him.
him,
Eva, certainly.
certainly,
Vihim shanti,
vihim shanti,
they hurt.
they hurt,
Tasmat,
tasmat,
because of this.
because of this,
Rauravam,
raravam,
Raurava,
rarava,
iti,
iti,
thus.
thus,
Ahuhu, learned scholars say.
learned scholars say,
Ruruhu,
ruruhu,
the animal known as Ruru.
the animal known as Ruru,
Iti,
iti,
thus.
thus,
Sarpat,
sarpat,
then the snake.
then the snake,
Atikrura,
ati krura,
much more cruel and envious.
much more cruel and envious,
Satvasya,
satvasya,
of the entity.
of the entity,
Apadashaha,
padishaha,
the name.
the name.
Translation. In this life, an envious person commits violent acts against many living entities. Therefore, after his death, when he is taken to hell by Yamaraj, those living entities who were hurt by him appear as animals called Rurus to inflict very severe pain upon him. Learned scholars call this hell Rava. Not generally seen in this world, the Ruru is more envious than a snake. According to Sridhar Swami, the Ruru is also known as the Parashringa. Attikrurasya Bharashringaya Satvasya Apadesha Samkhya. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms this in his Sandarbha. Ruru Sabdasya Swayam Muni Naiva Tika Vidhanal Lokesh Aprasiddha Evayam Jantu Visheshaha. Thus all the Rurus are not seen in this world, their existence is confirmed in the Shastras. Evamevamaharoravo yatra nipattitam purusham kravyadanama puravastam kravyena ghattayanti yakevalam deham bhara. Punishment in the hell called Maharorava is compulsory for a person who maintains his own body by hurting others. In this hell, Ruru animals known as Kravyada torment him and eat his flesh. Translation. Purport. The animalistic person who lives simply in the bodily concept of life is not excused. He is put into the hell known as Maharaurava and attacked by Ruru animals known as Kravyadas. Text 13. We'll just go translations. For the maintenance of their bodies and the satisfaction of their tongues, cruel persons cook poor animals and birds alive. Such persons are condemned even by man-eaters. In their next lives, they are carried by the Yamadutas to the hell known as Kumbhipaka, where they are cooked in boiling oil. Text 14. The killer of a Brahmana is put into the hell known as Kala Sutra, which has a circumference of 80,000 miles and which is made entirely of copper, heated from below by fire and from above by the scorching sun. The copper surface of this planet is extremely hot. Thus the murderer of a Brahmana suffers from being burned both internally and externally. Internally he is burning with hunger and thirst, and externally he is burning from the scorching heat of the sun and the fire beneath the copper surface. Therefore, he sometimes lies down, sometimes sits, sometimes stands up, sometimes runs here and there. He must suffer in this way for as many thousands of years as there are hairs on the body of an animal. And the last verse today, 15. If a person deviates from the path of the Vedas in the absence of an emergency, the servants of Yamaraj put him into the hell called Asipatravana, where they beat him with whips. When he runs hither and thither, fleeing from the extreme pain, on all sides he runs into palm trees with leaves like sharpened swords, thus injured all over his body and fainting at every step. He cries out, "Oh, what shall I do now? How shall I be saved?" This is how one suffers who deviates from the accepted religious principles. There's actually only one religious principle, Dharmam tu Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. The only religious principle is to follow the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unfortunately, especially in this age of Kali, everyone is an atheist. People do not even believe in God. What to speak of following his words? The words Nija Veda Patha can also mean one's own set of religious principles. Formerly, there was only one Veda Patha, or set of religious principles, Now there are many. It doesn't matter which set of religious principles one follows. The only injunction is that he must follow them strictly. An atheist or Nastika is one who does not believe in the Vedas. However, even if one takes up a different system of religion, according to this verse, he must follow the religious principles he has accepted. Whenever, whether one is Hindu or a Mohammedan or a Christian, he should follow his own religious principles. However, if one concocts his own religious path within his mind, or if one follows no religious principles at all, he is punished in the hell known as Asipatravana. In other words, a human being must follow some religious principles. If he does not follow any religious principles, he is no better than an animal. As Kali Yuga advances, people are becoming godless and taken up so-called secularism. They do not know the punishment awaiting them in Asi Padravana, as described in this verse. Oh, yeah. Omagana Timirandasya Gananjana Shilakaya Chaksuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayarupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Sapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhave Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nivishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deshatarine. Right, so we're in the middle of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the middle of Srimad Bhagavatam, we've been a little bit more awakened with this various shocking information about the hellish planets. Of course, not new to humanity in one sense. Dante Alighieri was describing hellish planets and different circles of hell. In Christian world, also, it was very known that there are hellish planets and the sinful people will be purified in those areas. And every religion really speaks about hell, but here we have a very, not only detailed description, but also specific hells for specific sins. In this chapter 28, hellish planets are mentioned, 28 or 21, as we discussed a few verses ago. But there are details to each specific violence that one commits, and then what result he has to reap in those hellish planets. So it's not, as Yashodef Prabhu was mentioning yesterday, it's not cheap to just think yourself, identify yourself with the body, and just think it's innocent, and not cheap, innocent, that it's innocent to just identify yourself with the body and live your life as such. No, it's actually animalistic, and if animals not not getting any karma, they just burning the karma that they have accumulated previously. The human being is very different. It's a very different situation. So one has certain rules, regulations, principles, religious principles. Um, what is dharma, what is not dharma? Of course, according to the degree of different religious system, these injunctions may vary, but there are still some injunctions to behave like human being, not to steal, not to unnecessarily cause violence, not to sleep with anyone we only called religious by name, but not by actual uh, actual life or actual deeds, and we will be judged accordingly. So I had a friend, not a friend, but a devotee that I met in Russia many years ago, and he was telling me how he came to Krishna consciousness, and so he was taking some drugs and living like life, like a Kali Yuga lifestyle. And at one point, when he got some drugs, he all of a sudden awoke in a place very dark, in a cage, and there were other people in a cage. All of them looked very distressed. And from that cage, when he looked around, he saw a, a big fire pits, and on those fire pits uh, there were pans with burning oil, and he saw people that were in a queue to be put in those pots, pans to be boiled in this oil. So he was shocked. And as he was sitting there, he was asking, "Where are we? He was asking those people with him, "Where are we? What are we going to do?" He said, "There's no way to escape," the other prisoner in that cage said. And he said, "But there must be a way, there must be a way." He said, "Yes, there is a way. There's only one way. You have to call out the name of God." And then he said, "Oh, well, that's good, no? You just call out the name of God and you can get out of here." He said, "So what's the name of God?" He said, "We don't know. We don't know what's the name of God." And he was shocked, and he awoke from his intoxication trance, completely shocked. And he said, "I have to find out what are the names of God." So he went to India, actually, and he went through so many different ashrams of various traditions and sects in India until he finally met devotees who preached to him and he realized what the names of God he has to chant. Now he's an initiated devotee. Oh, that's very nice thing. So, we never know how merciful Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is by distributing this Yuga Dharma and saving us from those absolutely hellish conditions. So he had this advertisement of the hellish planets, which were so vivid, so realistic, that he said, "This is not the place where I want to go. I want to be somewhere else." So sometimes we need this, whether reading and hearing from Shastra or even having such a revelation, you can say, uh, to understand, that it's not innocent to identify yourself with the body, because in as we know from Bhagavad Gita, from 14th chapter, that the modes of nature will be pulling us, and then when they pull in us, especially the lower modes, they will imprison us in certain conditions. So as we know, like the sattva guna, the mode of goodness, gives us knowledge, whereas the mode of passion will only evoke greed in us. And we know from the 16th chapter that there are three gates to the hell. We mentioned them last time. And one of them is greed. The other one is lust, right? And so it's very it's a dangerous path to play with those modes of material nature. And of course, tamaguna evokes madness, complete ignorance. So it's very hard to get out of them, right? So there are people who want to get rid of their addiction to, say, drugs or alcohol or some other intoxicants, but it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Even the devotees who come to the practicing devotees who are trying to become pure devotees, they come into this bhakti path, but if they were conditioned so much by those lower modes for very big duration of time, even while practicing devotional service, they may be struggling with those addictions which will be haunting them, uh, a year after year or sometimes decade after decade. That's how difficult it is. So one has to be very serious and calling out the names of God very sincerely in order to get purified from those reactions. This is actually reaction for that sinful life that we led. The reaction is that you're haunted by those desires, you're haunted by those, you have the urges in your body and mind to get this again and again and again, whatever that was. So So if you continue through those and the translations, so we've seen that there's again different hells. There's also different animals called rurus, which we don't see in this material world on our earthly planet, but they're confirmed to be in Shastra by both Sridhar Swami and Srila Jiva Goswami, as well as here in Srimad Bhagavatam, where it says that they are more envious than a snake. A snake doesn't look really attractive, the way it hisses and bites and it can, whatever it touches, milk, if it touches even the milk, the most wonderful product, it becomes like a poison, even more dangerous than the poison itself of the snake. So it's very, very unpleasant creature. So this is even something more scary, something even more envious. Envious means ready to attack, right? Ready to show its aggression. So must be something very, very unpleasant. Also, there are different types of rurus. So another one in the second hell described here is Maharo Rava. There's a ruru that are called Ravyada. So there's a different types of rurus also. And yeah, the next hell is described here as Kumbhipaka, whereas you get cooked in a boiling oil. That's for those who are very cruel to poor animals and birds, who are actually cooking them alive. Sometimes there are practices when you get a frog or something, you put it in a boiling water and you boil it, so it actually is cooked alive, and it's really, or crabs or some other, like different animals, the practice is that they do cook it alive, and so it's very torturing, and this hell is awaits for such persons, which is very, very difficult. Now there's a killer of Brahmana, and the punishment is that burning everywhere, inside, outside, from the sun, from the heated copper. Copper is really such a metal that it very easily transports the heat. Very, very quickly it's heated up, so it's like a best medium for transporting the heat or distributing the heat. So you can only imagine how hot it is. If you ever been to Jagannath Puri, for example, or any place where there's sand, and you walked barefoot on a hot sand, you can, especially during the midday, and if it's summer, it's intolerable heat just from the sand. You have to wear sandals, so you have to, you cannot really walk. You'll get blisters. So, and especially in summer, in places like Jagannath Puri, the sand can be heated up to 70 degrees Celsius. So I don't even know how much it is in Fahrenheit. Right? So it's a very, very like it's a basically you cannot walk. Of course, some devotees like Sanatana Goswami described in Chaitanya Charitamrita how he was so humble because he had those oozing wounds with pus and unpleasant smell. And also he considered himself to be low because he has time, although he was coming from the topmost Saraswata Brahmin family. He didn't want to disturb those priests that are servants of Lord Jagannath in Sri Mandir. So he tried to avoid walking through their areas, districts. He was walking by the sand in order to get to the place he went to get the darshan of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so, he got blisters, intolerable, completely. But because he was absorbed in his mind in that service mode that he wants, he'll see Lord Chaitanya and ask him, so forth. So he didn't even recognize, so he didn't even notice what happened to his feet and the blisters he got. It's an intolerable pain that only devotees that not completely transcended their body, the concept of life, can tolerate such pain. Nobody else can tolerate. So you can imagine how these people there, when put in such conditions, running, sitting down, but there's no place to uh, get relief. There's a constant pain, constant pain. Unbelievable, you know. We are struggling with just some sun. Sometimes there's scorching heat, sun, and then we're struggling so much, you know. Um, we need a hat, sunglasses, and sunscreen. And ideally, get to the place where there's AC working, right? If it's only like 100 degrees Fahrenheit, that's it, you know. Even 90, we already, even 85, we are, we may be already struggling. Um, but you know, devotees like Srila Prabhupada, they were distributing magazines Delhi in a city in the summer when it was over 40 degrees Celsius. Hot to distribute this one magazine. So the gentleman looking from around said, Swamiji, Swamiji, whatever, however he addressed him, maybe he said Maharaj, uh, it's so hot, it's intolerable to stand outside. Why don't you come in the shade? I said, no, no, I'm waiting for a gentleman. He promised to come to get this magazine. And this gentleman, he couldn't see Prabhupada in this, he just couldn't tolerate him tolerating this heat. So he was saying, how much is the magazine? Can I buy this? You know, just please, Swamiji, don't stay. So, Maharaj, don't stay there, don't stay there, just come inside. I said, no, no, that's all right. But you, yes, you can buy a magazine. He said, yes, 2 rupees or whatever it was. Um, I think he increased the price for that particular incident because he saw how man is like willing to. And so he not only he bought magazine, he said, and then Prabhupada still stood there because he was waiting for the gentleman who promised to come. So he was not going anywhere. So he sold the magazine, but he was waiting with another one for that same, for the gentleman that was there yesterday. So he said, "Can I do something for you, Swami? Can I please come inside? I'll give you new clothes. Your clothes are torn." I'm not sure if he was. I think maybe he was Vanapras at the time. Anyway, this story goes that uh, Srila Prabhupada was just tolerating, and in fact, he was not only tolerating. In this case, he was even uh, playing more to ignite that service attitude by this very nice gentleman who was trying to serve Prabhupada and take care of him. So. So for the service of Krishna, uh, one may undergo different inconveniences, but because he's absorbed in his mind in that service that he's performing for Krishna, he's not noticing those inconveniences. Not that he's not like noticing them, but he's not focusing his attention on it. So he continues to do his duties and devotional service. So like this. And then the last verse that we have with a very nice purport. So now one can say, okay, I don't know the Vedas, and so that not knowing, I'm not going to be punished. But here Srila Prabhupada states, no, if you have accepted some religious path, you have to very strictly follow those instructions. And quite often we hear Srila Prabhupada discuss it with Catholic priests or some other Christian denominations. He was always stressing, why don't you follow the Jesus Christ's instructions? And he was always saying, thou shalt not kill. Often he was quoting that sixth commandment about not killing animals. So why do we kill? They say animals don't have soul. And Prabhupada was arguing very strongly on this point, uh, specifically for cows. He wanted to invoke some intelligence in them to think a little deeper about that and think a little deeper about Jesus Christ's instructions, to whom he had a great respect as a devotee of the Lord. So this was Srila Prabhupada's mood and compassion. And as an acharya, and of course Krishna himself dictates those purports and uh, translations to Srila Prabhupada. So you can say that we can be assured that other religious traditions also, if they're trying to follow sincerely, not just, okay, I'm a Muslim, and so Ramadan I will follow once maybe in a decade, and namaz 5 times a day. No, it's too much. I'll just do morning prayer whatever time I wake up, not necessarily by the sunrise and stuff like that. So this is not exactly practicing Islam. So if one has to practice Islam, he has to follow 5 times a day. He has to follow the Fridays, going to mosque and pray together and like that, and follow Ramadan and other uh, holy months and holy celebrations. When you have a Easter, when you have the great fast for 40 days, you have to fast for 40 days, and you have to fast on other days when they have the fasting days, and have to attend the Sunday liturgy and the prayers and so forth, and you have to follow the commandments of Jesus Christ. That's the most important, not to interpret it the way it's convenient for me or for my condition. So that's another important thing. And of course, Vaishnavas are so compassionate. Uh, it's mentioned here that the main religious principle is dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitham. So when you follow these instructions and words of Krishna, then not only you saved, you are performing the main and only dharma. And we know that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also that out of yagyam japa yagyosmi, that out of all sacrifices I'm japa, I'm chanting of the holy names. And so there's a story that's mentioned in Padma Purana, which I'm going to not read, but I will say it, but I will have my notes just to not miss a point. It's mentioned in Padma Purana in Patalakanda 1831 to 77. It's describing the glory of another Mahajan, Janaka Maharaj, and is describing on one side his potency as a devotee, his compassion as a devotee, but also the glories of the holy name. So that story, as is narrated in Padma Purana, is, and we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, we will read it actually in the next canto, that there are 12 Mahajans in 6.3.20. They mentioned Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Kumaras, and Yamaraj, and Prahlad Maharaj, and Janaka Maharaj is mentioned as one of them. So don't hear much in Srimad Bhagavatam about Janaka Maharaj, how great he is and how Mahajan he is. So in this story in Padma Purana, this is described very nicely. So when the time came for Janaka Maharaj to leave the body, and just reminded that Janaka Maharaj is a father of Sita Devi, glorious wife of Lord Ramachandra. So he was very, very attached to Lord Ram. So when he gave his daughter to him, he was extremely happy. His whole life was blissful, and he was constantly absorbed in thinking about Lord Ramachandra. With his glorious life as a devotee, of course, by the time he was about to give up his body, the Vaikuntha airplane came to pick him up. And as he was flying to the Vaikuntha realm, or to Ayodhya, spiritual realm, they were just passing the planets of this material world, and they were passing the hellish planets. And so there was a breeze that was blowing, and so that breeze carried aroma, carried the fragrance of Janaka Maharaj's transcendental body, and it instantly gave a relief to those suffering in the hell, in one of the hellish planets. And when they were suffering and they just had this breeze that carried the fragrance and aroma of Janaka Maharaj's body, they felt such great relief, they started to shout, "Oh, great person, please, don't leave us here. We feel such relief in your presence, stay." So when Janaka Maharaj heard this, that, that these poor souls are getting relief just from his presence, he decided that he's gonna have a stopover on the way back to Ayodhya. So he asked Vishnu Dutas to land the airplane, and so he stepped out, and Yamaraj, another great devotee of the Lord, also one of the Mahajans, he came to greet the great Vaishnava. What, you know, his duty is very, mm, it's not something not to be envious about, you know, having such service to reprimand and punish the conditioned souls according to their karma. So when he saw Janakumar, he said, well, great soul, what are you doing here? You know, you're not supposed to be here. This is not a place for gentlemen. You're supposed to be elsewhere. You're supposed to be. He said, no, no. And here I have to quote because I don't want to miss some interesting point. So Yamaraj, and I'll have to translate because I have this in Russian language, but anyway. So Yamaraj said, O king, you are Sarvadharma Shiromani. You are the Chintamani jewel of all auspiciousness. What aim do you have to come here? The hell is a place for very envious, sinful people who have caused pain to others. People like you who have such purity should not even visit our places here. We only have to punish here those who have cheated on his uh, chaste wife and religious wife, who, out of greed, was uh, was cheating others and so forth. So these people I will be putting in various hellish planets. And Janaka Maharaj, his heart was full of compassion. He said, "Oh great God," or Maharaj, it's very difficult for me to look at these pains of those poor souls. I cannot go to Vaikuntha alone and leave them here to be punished for all those things. Even if wind that touched my body can uh, alleviate their pains and suffering, I'm ready to eternally reside here and serve them in this capacity. Only when by your will, you will release them from those pains, I will consider my duty to be fulfilled. So we can see the glory of compassionate Vaishnava, as we say, Vanchakalpatarabhisha, Kripa Sindhubevacha. Very merciful, very compassionate, great souls. And they can really cause miracles. So we can hear Yamaraj answered, oh great king, just look at those sinful people, look at him. And he started to mention, this cheated on his wife, this one did this was this. So he will have that for 1,000 years, this one will have this punishment, and then after that he will be born as a pig on the earth planet. So it's not like after hell he's elevated to a wonderful human being. No, there will be animal life also after that. So he said, this will be hundreds and thousands of years here, suffering. In other words, trying to tell him, you're not going to be residing here for thousands of years, and this is nonsense. And so he was explaining about those different hellish planets. And then he said, only after they will be suffering for that much, their sins will burn and I will release them. So please, leave this place which is not worth of you to be here. Please leave this place as soon as possible. Don't stay here. And Yamaraj stopped talking. But Janaka Maharaj, his eyes were full of tears of compassion. He said, please tell me, or uh, or death personified, which how those uh, those souls can get rid of those sufferings and attain the happiness. Give me some method how to help them. And Yamaraj replied, he said, all of those people have never worshipped Lord Vishnu. They never have heard of transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing can help them to get out of the hell but if you really have that desire, then give them the result of only one of your millions and millions of good deeds that you have performed. And he reminded him, Yamaraj said, do you remember that one morning when you woke up and while lying in the bed still, you stretched, remembered the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, and with great affection you pronounced Ram. So he said, do you remember this occasion? So he said, the image of Lord Raghunath or Sri Ramachandra, who is known as Mahapapa Harabhidha, the one who is eliminating all the results of the most horrible sins. So when you said this in a very early morning with a pure mind and pure heart, it's very important. You just said one name, Rama. If you wish, you can give to all of those sufferers the result of that one name, pronunciation of one name. And when the Janak Maharaj heard it, he said, let them get results of all of my good activities, like of all that I did, not just that one name, everything that I did, I'm ready to give, he said. But Yamaraj, he wanted to show his glory. He said, I'll just show you this, of that one name, you will see the result. And so as he said this, thousands and thousands of Vaikuntha planets started to descend in this hellish area, and all of those sinful people were actually elevated. In one split of a second, all of their reactions for their countless sins that they have performed, they were eliminated, and so they were elevated to the spiritual realm. And as they were elevating, they were crying out of joy, glorifying Janamakaraj, saying, all glories to you, all glories to you. We're going back to the spiritual world. And when he saw those millions of now bright, right? Now they became very bright living entities as they were ascending to the spiritual world and the Vaikuntha planes. His heart, Janak Maharaj's heart, was always, he's always a well-wisher to all the conditioned souls, as every Vaishnava. He became very pleased in his heart. So we can hear again that the only way to really get rid of all the sinful reactions in this most horrible age of Kali, so horrible that when sometimes Srila Prabhupada says in purpose that even the great devotees, because the environment is so contaminated, they also may make mistakes and even commit some sinful activities. Not purposefully though, Vaishnavas never do it on purpose, but by mistake because of the bad influence of this very, very difficult age of Kali. But still, the result is, or the Krishna will take care, as he promised in Bhagavad Gita. I will take care. You just surrender to me, I'll take care of all your sins. Right? So this is an extremely important point. Yesterday I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, and there was a very nice paragraph in a 7th chapter, 15th verse. It says, the Lord's holy name is called Shravana Mangala. This means that one receives everything auspicious simply by hearing the holy name. In another place in Srimad Bhagavatam, his holy name is described as Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is a pious act simply to chant and hear all about the Lord. The Lord descends to this earth and acts like others in connection with the activities of the world, just to create subject matters for hearing about him. Otherwise, the Lord has nothing to do in this world, nor he has any obligation to do anything. He comes out of his own causeless mercy and acts as he desires. The Vedas and Puranas are full of descriptions of his different activities, so that people in general may naturally be eager to hear and read something about his activities. Generally, however, the modern fictions and novels of the world occupy a greater part of people's valuable time. Such literatures cannot do good to anyone. On the contrary, they agitate the young mind unnecessarily and increase the modes of passion and ignorance, leading to increasing bondage to the material conditions. The same aptitude for hearing and reading is better utilized in hearing and reading of the Lord's activities. This will give one all-around benefit. It is concluded, therefore, that the holy name of the Lord and topics in relation with him are always worth hearing, and therefore he is called here in this verse Namadheya, or one whose holy name is worth chanting. So we can hear, and today with this meditation about the hellish planets, we can hear from devotee, the warning is there that only a holy name can relieve you from such horrible place. But in hellish planets, you don't know, you forget, you don't know the holy name of the Lord, so you cannot get out. We hear from Padma Purana this story of Janaka Maharaj, how the result of purely chanting of holy name can alleviate so many people, so many conditioned souls. That's the compassion of a Vaishnava. And we also heard yesterday, Jagannath Pandit Prabhu hosted this another nice testimony of one book distributor, Prabhupada disciple, who was distributing books, and then they got attracted to this Radha Kund Babaji, and tried to chant different mantras, stop distributing books. And Prabhupada came in a dream to that lady and to that Vaishnavi and brought her by hand to the Radha Kund, in the Radha Kund, to the heart of Radha Kund. And in that heart of Radha Kund, people were getting Prabhupada's books. And same thing as with Janaka Maharaj's story, they were getting on Vaikuntha plains and back to the spiritual world. And this was at the heart of Radha Kund, which means it's at the heart of Srimati Radharani, to give everyone love of Godhead. And that love of Godhead is held in the form of those transcendental books, literatures. So let us take this process very seriously, both chanting the holy name and hearing and about the Lord's pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, not only we will be saved, we will also develop the genuine compassion as such great souls to distribute this knowledge as per desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, following their footsteps, distributing this knowledge so that everyone can be elevated from those most miserable conditions that we are reading about right now. So thank you very much. If there are any questions and comments, I'm sorry I didn't leave much time for that. It's only 5 minutes or so left. But anyway, maybe a little more, 10. Please. Maybe Nimish, person. Many devotees online can ask or comment.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I want to thank you for a wonderful class. I really enjoyed hearing the narration of Janaka Maharaj. Wonderful story. There's so many wonderful narrations that was very nice to hear today after these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's all very exciting. I'm not sure why, but I really enjoyed this chapter. It's terrifying on the one hand, but I don't know. I guess it serves as impetus. Um, gives me lots to think about, and it helps to keep me sober and seriously endeavoring for pure Krishna consciousness. I don't want to get into a big conversation because we're short of time here, but thinking a lot about different ways that we can deviate from the path of religiosity. And coincidentally, I was just doing some reading about some discussions devotees were having with Srila Prabhupada about some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples being deviated from the Siddhanta they had received from Srila Prabhupada by individuals who appeared to them to be wonderful devotees, but who actually were deviant in some particular way. And in this case, they were individuals who were luring devotees with promises of giving them their siddha deha through siddha pranali, which Srila Prabhupada described as utter nonsense. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day, but there's lots of ways to be deviated, and we have to be careful. We have to be vigilant, because sometimes devotees are deviated by individuals who appear to be wonderful and highly qualified devotees, but are actually misleading them. It has happened many times. It's still happening today. And it's also an important reason for why we have to carefully and regularly study Srila Prabhupada's books. By doing so, we will be able to recognize when we are confronted with something that is a deviation from the true Siddhanta, and otherwise not. There was, I remember back around, might have been 1974 or so, I was attending a Bhagavatam class in New York. It was given by Harikesh Prabhu, and he wanted to make a point, an important point. There were some deviations going on at the time. We had a leader who was fallen, and he was trying to stress the importance of studying the books. He gave a class in which he made a whole bunch of statements that were completely false. I mean, just totally bogus statements. And then he asked for any questions, and nobody questioned those statements. No one recognized that they were completely bogus. So then he revealed that these statements were bogus, and launched into a discourse on the importance of reading the books so that you know precisely what is what. It's very important. All right, we're at 8 o'clock, so I'll stop. Thank you again, Prabhu. Always wonderful to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I think we have few more minutes, maybe 2 or so. So if anybody else would like to add or ask something briefly, we can still have that 2 minutes. Yes, Yashoda Devi.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh, Hare Chakra Prabhu.
Thank you very much for the class. Yeah, what I'm realizing is that sometimes when we speak from these Vedic literatures, some things seem to be contradictory, and it's a sign of a cause for botheration. Like the story of Janaka Maharaj that you were relating. Already Krishna has stated in Bhagavad Gita that all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Now, some people, because of the activities they have performed, they've been sent to hell. So it means Krishna is rewarding them accordingly. Now, how come Janaka, who has also performed his duty and he's being taken to the spiritual world, now just out of nowhere, his mercies are being showered on people who have performed some activity and they are suffering. So, and they get relief immediately from the hellish world and go back home, back to God. So, how is Krishna? What does that mean? The people were qualified to go to the spiritual world, or is it doesn't it seem contradictory?
The love of Vaishnavas has no boundaries, and especially Prema Bhaktas. They are very extremely rare. It's not just one of the 1,000 and one of the 1,000 who attains perfection. The Prema Bhaktas or Mahajans, they are extremely rare souls. So we know of 12 Mahajans, right? It's extremely empowered beings. Like Narada Muni, he can convert the hunter who is like completely abominable and sinful and just killing animals just for the pleasure of them being tortured, not even killing them properly. So such Mahajans can just do miracles, basically. And the Lord is very, very sensitive to the desires of such Mahajans, of such great souls. Like Prahlad Maharaj, when he prayed, for the well-being of the whole universe, or Vasudev Datta as the Prahlad Maharaj in Chaitanya Charitamrita Leela, same thing. I'm ready to suffer for them. Janaka Maharaj, he was ready. He didn't say it. Please try to understand. This is a very important point. When they are saying, I'm ready to take all the sins on my head for them, this is not a cheap thing. It's like Bhakti Tirtha, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was very much praying for the same, right? Before he got this. Saying that I'm ready to alleviate the sins of my followers like that so they can have an easier way back to Godhead. Now they are ready to take the suffering. They're not just saying it out loud for whatever, just for a pomp or something. So, but the Lord is, in one sense, so merciful that He is attuned to their desires. And so when Mahajan is desired for you to become devotee, you have no other choice but to become devotee. That's how powerful it is. His desire is, so you have no choice, you just have to become devotee. So they had to become alleviated because Janaka Maharaj was ready to suffer for all of them and reside in hell, but Yamaraj didn't want that. So he found a way how to glorify him at the same time. So after all, Yamaraj, it's his jurisdiction also. He's another Mahajan. So they were in his jurisdiction. He decided to release them. And also we don't know one more thing. We don't know the karma of those living entities. At what point, who from them did something good that this luck was brought to them? Or it could be completely causeless also. Also could be. So it's contradiction, but not. There's always that sweet will of the Lord, and especially great devotees of the Lord, who are even more merciful than the Lord. So that's our only hope, really. Devotees like Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say, some of you were great yogis in the past, some of them were devotees in the past, and some of them, you just got lucky. Like God is causeless mercy.
So I follow up. So how does he correlate a situation like this with what the Christians say? That Jesus Christ is so merciful that it doesn't matter how sinful you are, he's ready to take off your sins so that you can go back.
It does matter in the same matter. We wouldn't be practicing either, right? We would just waiting, okay, Lord Chaitanya, causeless mercy. But we have to practice. We have to attract that mercy in one sense. We are waving, we're jumping in kirtan, we're saying, we want the mercy, we want the mercy. Whether we'll get the mercy or not, it's up to Krishna, but we are trying to attract. So if the child is more obedient, that's more likely that he's got mercy of his parents, right? And the deities open up now. So it's causeless, but there is also a desire. So that is also considered, of course. So those who are following strictly Jesus Christ will definitely get his mercy, no doubt. And Prabhupada just wrote this in this last purport. All right, sorry, I have to finish. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Very good question. Thank you. Just Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Srila Prabhu, Yala Srila Prabhu, Guru Charana Padma.